Okay, welcome to lesson 56 of Digital Marketing 3, and I hope you can see my screen now. Lebo?
Yes, sir, I can see.
All right, so we continue with the series on strategy formulation. We just looked at decision 4, which talks merely about competitor analysis. And we have unpacked how differential advantage and how online value proposition can contribute to strategy formulation. So when you are coming up with options for strategy formulations, if you are coming up with alternate strategy, you also need to consider how this is going to differentiate your brand from competitors. You also need to consider how your online value proposition is going to outsmart and create a competitive advantage over the industry. So with this lesson, you should be able to distinguish between customer communication channels and distribution channels. This is relevant because sometimes it can be confusing. You also need to be able to make customer engagement and social media strategy decision, and you must be able to make multi-channel distribution strategy. So these are the things that you are going to be talking about as this lesson progresses. So decision 5, customer engagement and social media strategy. Most people, and I've seen that with many organizations online, they think customer engagement is all about having prompt responses to customers. But as long as that query gets unsolved, it becomes a problem with customer engagement. You can have the automated chatbots on the side that can quickly respond and say, how can I help you? But the focus on customers is how the query is escalated and solved, because there are some queries whose ETR takes longer and longer and longer until you actually forgot you had a query. And this is a bad recipe for strategy formulation and competitive advantage. So a customer engagement strategy required to keep the customers engaged. As the word engagement says itself. So a customer engagement strategy reviews approaches to create good, compelling content and experiences that form the online value proposition. And remember, engagement, as the word says, it's not one way. It has to be two-way. So you also, as much as you are engaging with customers, you also need to be digitally present that customers can engage with you. So it's not brand engaging with customers, but also customers engaging with brands. So to realize that sometimes customers would like to engage with a brand and a brand is not available at that time, or a brand takes longer to respond. Then on the other hand, social media strategy is about the communication used to achieve interaction with social network users to meet business objectives. Interaction, again, I emphasize here, is not one-way communication. Interaction, it means that as much as you are sending out information, you are also getting information from customers. So it must be interaction, not one-way communication. Common themes which are part of overall engagement and content marketing strategy, there are some questions that you need to ask yourself. The first one will be, who are our target audience? The moment you know who is your target audience, you know the person you are engaging with. That's where we talk about the buyer persona. So the moment you know your target audience, the language that you use, The content that you create is going to be aimed at that target audience. Think about a brand who has identified its target audience as the baby boomers, who are merely our fathers. So the language that you use to baby boomers, you can't use language such as dude, avail yourself. They'll be short. But if the target audience is your youth and you say dude, it's like something that they resonate with on their daily basis, the language that they speak on their daily basis. So you're not looking at this only from a language perspective, but there are so many things that you can consider when engaging with your right target audience. So you need to ask yourself, who are you talking to? That's why we have seen in real life situation when you are talking to your mother and you use the language that she does not like, or your father, or you use the language that is not undesirable to them. They always ask you, don't forget who you're talking to. Have you come across that, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so anytime you can be reprimanded, watch your words. Don't forget who you're talking to. So it's the same thing that I'd advise with content marketing strategy. Whatever content that you're coming up with, the overall engagement that you have, you need to be able to know first who you're talking to and their desires when it comes to engagement. You also need to ask yourself, what are the content preferences for our audiences? As I said, different segments have got different needs. Different generations have got different things that they'd like to hear about. So the content that you produce, even when you're an artist or you're a DJ, the music that you play, you need to resonate with the audience content preference. What is it that they can dance to? What tune? So you need to ask yourself this. You also need to ask timing. What kind of content would they prefer in winter? What kind of content would they prefer in summer? What kind of content would they prefer in the morning? What kind of content would they prefer in the afternoon or at evening when they are tired, about to retire to bed? You also need to ask yourself which content type should have been a priority. So you need to have a sort of a hierarchy of content. Then you must ask yourself, how do we differentiate social channels from other communication channels? Remember, the way you communicate on Facebook and how Facebook is developed can be different to the way you communicate on Twitter and on TikTok and on Instagram and on WhatsApp. So even if the message is the same, you need to know how you differentiate social channels for each communication channel. You also need to ask yourself, should we consider content frequency and editorial calendar? So as I said, how much messages, or if it's newsletters, how much newsletters must we send out per day, or in the morning, or in the afternoon? So it becomes something like a dosage. You know, when you go to the pharmacy, when you go to the doctor, they give you a dosage that set the frequency of how many tablets you're going to take at a specific time. Is it 2 in the morning? Is it 2 in the afternoon and 2 in the evening, or 3 times a day? Something like that. So it always helps to have an automated calendar that will give a frequency of the content that you have. That way you can reduce human error. So you know that when it's Black Friday, for example, there's a specific content that you need to put for Black Friday. And Black Friday often happen in November. So you set that on your calendar. When it's Easter, you know, we need a language that is toned, that is edited and toned around Easter eggs. And this is what we need to do when it's winter and so on. I don't know if I'm making any sense, guys. So it has to be the right communication at the right time with the right frequency. Otherwise, if that is lacking, or if you keep bombarding customers with no structured engagement, they will simply withdraw. They will simply feel like your emails are too much. They'll simply feel like what you are communicating does not relate with the timing of the calendar and so on. Imagine talking about winter in summer, or imagine talking about Black Friday in April. It wouldn't resonate well with your customers. Other things that you also need to ask yourself, how do we manage publication and interaction? Should we use software for managing the publication process? I believe if there are technologies at your disposal, because digital marketing is all about digital technologies, yes, you need to use software for managing the publication process. Otherwise, you can always be affected by human error due to exhaustion, to burnout, and to all these stresses that a human being can have. You also need to ask yourself, should we be tracking the business impact of social network activity? This one matters because if your engagement does not improve the sales, if the engagement does not lead to customer retention, if the engagement does not lead to better profit, then why are you engaged with customers? Because at the end of the day, you need to convert those customers into actual buyers. You also need to know, how do we optimize social presence? So those are the questions that are common themes that you need to know and to be well aware of. Then, because we're still talking about communications, we'll move on to decision 6. So to realize that this lesson has got 2 decisions. Decision 5, which talks about customer engagement, and decision 6, which talks about multi-channel distribution strategy. And you need to be able to know the 2. Because knowing this will also show you the difference between marketing and selling. A distribution channel refers to the flow of products from manufacturer or service provider to the end customer. And we spoke about this, guys. We spoke about this when we were doing micro analysis, looking at the intermediary. So realize that sometimes the products would flow from manufacturers to the end customers via an intermediary. I don't know if you can still remember that. Players in the supply chain will determine structure, and this will determine goods getting to the right place at the right time. And it gets tricky online because you do not have a geographical location, because you do not have all the physical 4 Ps that you deal with when distributing the product. We've got click and mortar stores, we've got click only, and we also have click and collect at the store. You can buy something at Clicks right now, and you can buy something at Clicks right now online, and you go to your nearby store to collect it. Or when you are buying there, they will give you an option which store are you going to collect it from. So they'll give you a sort of a store locator. So these are part of the distribution, multi-channel distribution channel strategy. So instead of only focusing on traditional shopping where someone would leave home and go to the shops to buy, you can also let them utilize your digital assets whereby they can get online and the product get delivered at their doorstep, or they can buy it online and go and collect it at the store. Key decisions should be asked. Should the internet complement the company's other channels or replace other channels? These are some of the big questions that many companies are asking themselves. Must we completely migrate to digital, or must we remain offline and use available limited digital platforms? So these are things that are getting trickier, and I'm sure that's what also Boston Media House is doing. We meet virtually online, and we also meet physically. So they've got traditional classes, and they also have virtual classes. So Kuma suggests replacement most likely to happen when customer access to the internet is high. So if you answer that question, you need to ask yourself, who is your target audience? That's the question that we asked ourselves before. And once you have known your customer, your target audience, how is their internet access? Is there a digital divide whereby most of them are not online? Imagine if you're a ShopRite, whereby you rely purely on goggles who do not have smartphone. So customer access has to be high on the internet. The internet can offer better value proposition than other media. Product can be delivered over the internet, and product can be standardized. So the delivery one is very, very, very crucial, because in South Africa, there are still some of the places that are not reachable physically. You know, maybe due to frequent protests in that area, service delivery protests, or maybe due to crime, having so much inkunzi there. Guys, do you know inkunzi?
Is it mugging, sir?
Pardon?
Is it mugging? Like when you get
Yes, bamba binkunzi town. Smash and grab, you know, so much smuggling in this city, unfortunately. So can things be delivered as easy as possible? I've seen on news several times whereby a courier car has been hijacked and all the deliveries on that courier have been stolen. I don't know if you've heard that, guys. Especially the companies that deliver smartphones, laptops, and things like that. So it becomes tricky to fully replace, to fully use the internet and replace your traditional motor things that you do offline. Products can be standardized, as I spoke about that. And if all conditions are met, then replacement is the way forward. But still, I don't think that can work. Even Takealot on itself is not completely online. It does have pickup points in different locations. Do you know that, guys?
Yes, sir.
At first, it was fully online, having deliveries from Cape Town. But nowadays, it has got so many collection points that they've used as part of their multi-channel distribution strategy. So they've realized the importance of being offline, of having that physical infrastructure where orders are sorted out and customers are given the opportunity to come and pick up their orders.
So, sir.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, right, yeah. We living in an age where obviously things are becoming digital, right? And more companies are moving into this digital space.
Yes.
Right, but they still keeping the physical stores and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think the reason for them to keep these physical stores is because of customer engagement.
To some extent, it's because of customer engagement and also the multi-channel distribution strategy. So what most brands have realized in South Africa, specifically in South Africa, is that there's still a digital divide. So not everyone is online, right? Of which, if you're a company, you'd like to engage with both the online consumer and the offline consumer. You'd like to deliver to both the offline consumer and online consumer. So once that digital divide is closed, the gap between those with smartphone, the gap between those with internet access and those who do not have, once that closes, it means that organization can simply ignore the offline world. It's the same thing with this class. You know, there are only 2 people in this class now. So do you think Boston can fully have online classes?
No.
Yes, I don't think so. So yes, Level, I agree with you. The reason why they are using offline channels because they want to maintain engagement, to engage with those who are offline. Are you answered?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the technical integration strategy, organizations will have to plan for integration with customers and suppliers. So links with single customers, links with intermediaries, those are 2 different things. So sometimes things can be sent for wholesale to many distribution centers through a wholesaler or directly to individual customers. So that's it about lesson 56. Are there any questions or any queries or any additions or any comments? Here, any comments?
No comment. All good.
All right. Mr. Skizzy.
So, but you see, like with this like offline, this virtual classes, there's no like interaction and engagement, which like it makes it more difficult to understand some of the concepts because you're just like going through everything. So I feel like when people are here and like they communicate, that's when like you get to understand some of the things. So in some way, we still need offline. Yes.
All right. Yes, you do need offline engagement, but remember, it also depends with the industry or with the sector. The example that I can give you is with the retailers that you have, the Pick and Pay and the Takealots and stuff like that. You see, whenever you go to the store, you'd realize that they've printed those newspapers or whatever that shows the promotions. I don't know if you've seen that. Like the brochures.
Yes.
Showing things that are on promotion. Those things are already available online if you go to their social media pages, but they still need those because you realize that they've seen that most people would rather have the physical print than being online. And also being online nowadays in this country is risky because of load shedding. So if there's a 6-hour load shedding and your customers do not have alternative energy source, it means that they are going to be offline for 6 hours. So when they are offline for 6 hours, you still need to engage with them because customer engagement is vital. You can't sit back and say, well, it's load shedding, I can't reach out to my customers. I've seen with companies like KFC, in certain areas, they will close for the day because there's load shedding and they do not have generators. Think about the losses that they have, for example. So I do agree with you, offline engagement is very, very crucial, but you also need online engagement.
Yeah, but I was like basing on this industry because this is a school. So meaning that if there are external factors like load shedding impacting this whole thing, so chances are not all the students are gonna be online,
Yes.
right? And maybe they wouldn't even watch the recorded lessons, right? And when we go back to school, the contact week, you need to move forward. So at some point, like it's just, I think like it's kind of like taking a loss because like when students will fail, obviously the business will be blamed.
Okay, so if I get you correctly here, so do you feel like sometimes online engagement, especially in this scenario, is irrelevant at all?
To some
Like
extent,
we need to stick to offline engagement.
to some extent,
Okay.
because like load shedding is something that is real, so like, something that is like impacting and like it's here to stay, right? So I'm saying like at times maybe it wouldn't be just like these 2 hours or 4 hours. Maybe we would like go to like 6 hours, 8 hours. We don't know. Just assuming, right? So
Yes.
it's three,
And
because
sometimes when electricity it come back, there might be an explosion and you get further power outage.
yeah, because now it's gonna come back to the whole thing of I think it's gonna impact a whole lot of things like your data, networks, and all those kind of things. So for this like type of business, I think more offline is needed.
Okay, to some extent, I do agree with you. But remember, I asked you this in class, right? And not all of you guys said you prefer to come to campus. So the fact that not all of you prefer that, it means that there's a need to have virtual classes because there are some who prefer virtual classes. But I do understand what you're saying. And also, considering the fact that in offline engagement, there is no backup. So everything is based on what you hear now. If you don't take notes, everything that we have discussed is going to be lost. Then with digital engagement, you can always revert back to the charts. You can always go back to the comments. You can always go back to the email address. You can always go back to the recordings. That's why we are recording this session.
Okay,
So,
sir, I don't think we get the bigger picture, sir.
I
I'm
do
not
get you
saying
100%.
I'm not saying that that
Mhm.
students should go to campus every day or whatsoever, right?
Mhm.
All I'm saying is that in this industry, I mean, at this point, it's so easy for AI to take your job
Mhm.
as a lecturer,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Online.
Mhm.
Yes. So right now, like according to your point of view, what's the significance of online?
Data storage, first one.
Okay.
Being able to send the links, second one. So that can lead to diverse content. But listen, Lebo, everything that you are saying, trust me, I do get your point. I do get your point. It's the same thing with banks. Banks were struggling because they used to write down checks. A check.
Yes.
No, so there was a thing of how can we digitize this? Then they ended up coming up with solutions and they've got internet banking and stuff like that. But at that point, it was like it's going to be very difficult to use digital tools for banking services.
Okay, then.
So as a student and your performance as a student, do you think you can have more academic performance if you are attending offline, if there's offline engagement, than there can be online engagement,
I mean,
based on
say,
your experience?
you made a point when you said that uh, online that's a storage, and also, you can record lessons, and I can be able to have them as a student. So that will help me to go back and refer. Let's say we have already passed that lesson, then I can go back and refer to that lesson, other than when you do it in class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
So
remember, there are also, are you still talking?
now you can talk.
Remember, there are also disadvantages to online lessons level, like
Yeah.
online engagement. There are many disadvantages. The first one would be um, online engagement is not that real. As long as there's no non-verbal communication, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Communication can be effective when I can look at you and you can look at me. I can see your facial expression and you can also see my facial expression. That's why most people today, they still struggle with online dating, right?
Yes.
Because there's no sense of touch. There's no sense of that humanness, being human. It's like you are there. I don't even know what you are doing, whether you are busy in your kitchen, while least in class, in physical class, you know that I'm standing in front of you or I'm sitting in front of you and we can engage. So there's more like natural engagement compared to online. So there are benefits and there are also disadvantages. And the biggest disadvantages are those that we mentioned. Not only load shedding, because load shedding can be addressed, but also people not having enough access to devices, people not being able to afford data. So those are also the other things that are actually huge in South Africa. I remember when it was load shedding, University of Johannesburg actually had to give students laptops and tablets so that they can connect with virtual classes. You tell students that they can't come to class because we are in level 5, they need to go online. Then they tell you that we don't have a laptop, I can't afford a laptop, or I can't afford data. So that one can never be ignored, level.
Yes.
As
That's
well
why
as mhm.
that's why I'm saying that they both have, actually, online has both the benefits and also the disadvantages. But in terms of
Very true.
engagement, in terms of engagement, because the other time when I was like doing the when we were doing the spa to you, so most of the
Mhm.
people like usually like they preferred going to the store and like touching the
Mhm.
product,
Mhm.
because it's like food and all those kind of things. Like they wanted to touch, have the touch of the product,
Mm.
but they were not disagreeing with the services that's been like provided, which is the delivery service. Like, but all I'm saying is that like I feel like engagement is more on offline other than online, because it's cool.
Okay.
Say it's cool. Like you can make a recording of a lesson. Let's say you are alone. There's no student there,
Mhm.
right? So we only taking your perspective on your examples. Whereas if there are like many students, they will come with different examples and different perspective, and
That's true.
that would be easy
Because
to
when I'm having
understand.
a lesson, I learn it to be one-way communication, and one-way communication never work in any form of communication.
Yeah, so it'd be just you reading the thing, the
Mhm.
slides and giving examples. So whereas like when there are like students, we all have like different views and different perspectives on what the topic is suggesting. So I
And
think in
some
that
of
way,
those views may be brilliant as well.
yes, and in that
Mm.
way, if I can't get your example, I can be able to get Gia's example or Lisedi's example.
That's correct. I do agree with you on that one. I do agree with you. We also need to look at the type of engagement, because when focusing on Boston, for example, there are so many. We have got engagements in form of lectures, right?
Yes.
Then we also have engagements in terms of excursions, as well as engagements in terms of marking, whereby I'll give you feedback to what you have written, which is a form of engagement as well. So these are things that you have to consider as a brand. What kind of engagement do you want to have offline, and what kind of engagement do you want to have online? So if someone buys a take-a-load, the only engagement that you can have is by telling them the status of their order. But everything else, we need to engage with them offline. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yes.
So sometimes I think brands need to ask themselves, what kind of engagement would suit that environment, that context of online, especially where a sense of touch or feeling something is needed, even a sense of sight. Imagine if I'm teaching science right now, and all of a sudden we've got a virtual class where there's a video, we can see each other, it's a video call. And I'm doing this experiment about a cucumber. But you don't have a cucumber with you and you are not feeling it. It's going to be difficult, of course, for you to understand what I'm talking about because it's not there. But if I have a cucumber in the physical class and I give you guys an opportunity to feel it, then you can know what I'm talking about. So I do agree with you on that one.
Yeah. So I think it was the whole thing of like the pandemic that made things move this way.
Yeah, sometimes also companies have got a tendency of singing the national anthem that is being sung by others. So the moment you realize that Varsity College is also having online classes and you are going to lag behind, let's do them even if they are not effective for you. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yes, sir.
So we need to go back to the drawing table, ask students how is it going both online and offline, and which one must we stick to. So digital migration is not a must, especially if your performance is on the ground. But if your sales and your performance is online, it means that you have to be online.
Yeah, I see. Hey, but we have to acknowledge the fact that if there was no online or internet, there wouldn't be digital marketing.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you on that one. And it's only this year that I have online classes. Last year I did not have any online classes. I went to campus every week.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, is there anything else that you'd like to discuss? I do like these conversations. Thank you so much, Lebo. At the end of the day, we learn a lot from each other.
Yes, sir.
And there's no wrong or right answer. Otherwise, through these discussions, that's when we come up with solutions.
Yeah, 100%.
Are there any questions, guys?
Yeah, I don't have.
Okay, if there's anything that you guys would like to raise, please make use of the WhatsApp groups. It's there for us to discuss, guys. It's there for us to talk. There are no rules. I do not put any rules that if you're a noisemaker, I'm going to remove you and stuff like that. Of course, as long as you talk about digital marketing, that would make sense because we need to contextualize our conversations. Otherwise, we'll meet again on Thursday at 10:20 in the morning to 2 p.m. And remember to do that activity on page 172. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Kia and Lebo, for coming. It's greatly appreciated, guys. I thought no one was going to come. And the first lesson I had to pre-record because there was no one in class. And to that extent, Lebo, that also add value to what we are discussing, that there's no room for communication. And I can guarantee you it's so boring when you are talking on your own. All right, see you on Thursday, guys.
Bye.
Bye.